What's happening, folks? Back with another reaction, back with some more Chuck Berry, and we're returning to this greatest hits compilation, which is called the Millennium Collection 20th Century Masters. And we're going to listen to a tune I cannot think of by memory, or by melody, or by lyrics, which is to say, it's a tune called You Never Can Tell. And while I've been familiar with a number of Chuck Berry's most famous tunes going back to my youth, this is not one of them. Now, I've had this CD for a while, so it's possible I have heard this at some point years back, but I can't think of any aspect of it as I sit here and look at the titles. So, yes, at least compared to the others on this compilation, or most of the others, I don't know this one much, if at all. But yeah, You Never Can Tell, the idea of not being able to arrive at certainty or determine something beyond any reasonable doubt, which sounds like, someone's perception about another person's intent or their interest or their affection, and saying, well, sometimes things seem like they're going well, but you never can tell, or maybe vice versa. Nevertheless, let's give it a listen and see if it comes back to me at all. This is Chuck Berry. The tune is You Never Can Tell, and it's included on a greatest hits compilation called the Millennium Collection.
It was a teenage wedding and the old folks wished them well. You could see that Pierre did truly love the mademoiselle. And now the young monsieur and madame have rung the chapel bell. C'est la vie, say the old folks, it goes to show you never can tell. They furnished off an apartment with a two-room robot sale. But when Pierre found work, the little money coming worked out well. C'est la vie, said the old folks, it goes to show you never can tell. They had a hi-fi phone, oh boy, did they let it blast. 700 little records, all rock, rhythm, and jazz. But when the sun went down, the rapid tempo of the music fell. C'est la vie, said the old folks, it goes to show you never can tell. They bought a souped up chitney, was a cherry red 53, and drove it down to Orleans to celebrate their anniversary. It was there where Pierre was wedded to the lovely mademoiselle. C'est la vie, said the old folks, it goes to show you never can tell. That Pierre did truly love the mademoiselle. And now the young monsieur and madame have rung the chapel bell. C'est la vie, say the old folks, it goes to show you never can tell.
That piano melody right there, which really stood out in that instrumental interlude before the final verse, or before the final articulation of what I think is the same as the first verse, that's the only part that really came back to me. So again, I've surely heard that years back, but it's not one that I've heard again and again and again, like Maybelline and some of the others. But yeah, it's fun, and actually the meaning, it is like, well, you'd expect one thing, but it actually turned out to be the other, which goes to show you can never tell. But it's different than I was thinking in advance. Number one, there's a big French theme here, which I guess it's sort of like a French Cajun, going down to New Orleans, as he said, type of vibe. But yeah, it's Pierre and this young woman. They get married when they're teenagers, and they have a teenage wedding. And I think the essence of You Never Can Tell is that the old folks, they actually approve of it. Well, that's life, it's just the way it is, and they're fine with it. And maybe that's why, normally this would be verboten. This would be something that, people would be scandalized by, and, perhaps they would have had to elope or something like that. But no, they had the wedding in the chapel, they rang the chapel bell, they get married, they get a swanky apartment, I think furnished by Roebuck, Sears and Roebuck Company, and they have a really nice record player and a big collection of records, and they play it loud, and then at night they play it softer, and they buy a cherry red car, and they're going to celebrate their anniversary down in New Orleans. And yeah, it's sort of a happy tale about the madam and the monsieur and how much he really does love the mademoiselle. So again, lots of French phrasing, but yeah, there's like less drama than maybe I would have thought. And again, if I'm reading the title phrase right, it's because their parents, or the older folks in the town, they were fine with it. They didn't put a stop to it. They didn't object. They essentially said, c'est la vie. That's just the way it goes. That's life. So yeah, I enjoy it. It's a fun tune. Again, we got that dancing piano, which gets a bit more forte at parts. We also have the saxophone in the background, not like super prominent, but just giving little swanky touches here and there. And again, I think Chuck sounds great on lead vocals. He just has a very distinct voice, and it's the kind of voice that just adds a bit of that old, rhythm and blues, early rock and roll flavor. So yeah, it's another top tune by him, and one that, as I said, didn't come back to me in great detail apart from that piano line, but I think it fits right in with his other hits, which of course is why it was surely included on this compilation. So let me know what you think, and I'll see you next time. Peace.